Now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Raw Minds family, it's Eric here, and you know this show is all about real stories, real pain, and real growth. Today's guest lived one hell of a life. From being a top BMX racer to sitting in prison cells, Chad Dunn has seen both sides of the line. But instead of giving up, he built something powerful out of it. The Move Human Performance Center in Chandler, Arizona. Now he helps people walk again, move again, and believe again. Chad turned his pain into purpose, his failure into fire, and his story into strength. This man knows what it takes to fall and rise. He's worked with pro athletes, kids who've lost their way, and people who were told they'll never move again. So buckle up. This one's raw, it's real, and it's strength from the heart. And don't forget, drop a comment, share this episode, like, follow, join Raw Minds family, because we're building here. It's bigger than just talk. It's healing. So let's get into it. Welcome, Chad. Thank you. And welcome to Raw Minds, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I've been waiting for this one.
Hell yeah, man. You know, we hit it off right off the bat, man. I was excited to have you on, and I'm so glad that your team there reached out to me, man. So I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah. When we had our first conversation, like I said, you know, it was going back and forth and then going back and listening to your story and hearing the things that you've overcome. You know, we're just kind of talking about that a little bit. It's mind boggling. But, you know, but the title of my book is Mind Over Virtually Everything, you know.
Yes, yeah, and I wanted to say that too. So you got a book coming out, but before we get into everything, or you have a book out, that I want you to plug all your stuff first, just so we can get it out there, and I'll put this up on the screen for people so they can get it.
Yeah, so Mind Over Virtual Everything. .com is a website that you can purchase the book on. Also, it's available on Amazon. 22, Instagram, Twitter, then Move Performance on Instagram and Twitter. Those are all the handles. The book is live. Hardback, softback, and ebook is on Amazon right now. Or, of course, you can buy it on our website, mindovervirtuallyeverything.com.
And can you, let's get into your book right off the bat if we can. Can you explain to, like, it obviously came from somewhere, right? You know, it came from somewhere. So can you tell us a little bit about you and how this book became?
Well, you know, as we all go through things, you know, we got to overcome some obstacles in life. And I always knew what I wanted to do, which was to help people and be in the healthcare system because I always cared about health. So growing up, I had a vision. I wanted to go to school, go to college. I wrestled. I played BMX. I rode BMX bikes. I did a lot of sports growing up. But then I also partied. I also got in with the wrong crowd. I was in the wrong environment, selling drugs, smoking crack, you know, doing all the good stuff. I ended up in prison for 3 years, roughly. Got out, and then they had to start a new beginning. So everything's based off choices. It's either yes or no. You know, there's no maybes involved. And so how do you make these comebacks, or how do you overcome things? It's because I want to do it. I want to do it, you know, and that's what I've shown these last 17 years of being out of prison. You know, it's taken me 17 years to get to where I'm at right now, and I'm not done, but every day has been one day better than the rest. And so I keep, you know, you hear stacking days all day long, stacking days. I always use one in a row, right? It starts with one day. You know, and you got to make that every day good. I got 365 steps to my program. It's one day every day, right? And so opening up Move, started helping out people. I got a couple of paralyzed guys walking again. I do a lot with catastrophic burn injuries. But the biggest thing is just don't let your past determine your future, right? And I think that's the biggest thing I have with it, is that everything that, you know, for being a drug user, from being on life on the streets, you know, doing crime and doing stupid shit that we shouldn't have been doing. I knew that I still wanted to be somebody, and I knew that I still could be somebody. I just needed the opportunity, and I needed a safe opportunity. I'll capitalize on anything. I was the best drug dealer because I worked the hardest. You know, I was the best drug user because I could hustle all day long to find and score and do what I had to do. I work harder when you're doing the stupid shit on the streets than what you do really in real life. Real life is simple because it's only two choices. It's yes or no. So I talked with this lady about writing this book, Peacock Proud Press, was the publishing company. I talked to them about 7 years ago, but there was a cost to it all. And I was just opening up my business, Move Human Performance Center. I needed the money to get the business started. My wife and I, we opened up Move, helping out people in the Valley in Arizona, coming back from catastrophic injuries. Like I said, I've had people that have been on fire for 2.5 minutes. I got people that have broken their back or paralyzed. Obviously, all the ACL injuries, the shoulder injuries, all the things that you get with normal sports injuries. But as an extreme rider, and extreme sports athletes in BMX, I live for dopamine, you know, I live for adrenaline. That's why I like life in the streets. You know, it's the high, you know, I can chase the high. And I started smoking crack to chase the high, and I got 6 DUIs, for drinking. Drinking was the other thing to chase the high.
Crazy.
I've been sober for 17 years. My
Good for
last
you,
DUI,
man.
yep, my last DUI that I had was the last drink that I had, and thankfully, because I could have killed somebody. So I
Yeah.
taken my time in prison, and really my time in prison was just it was to find myself. It was a white piece of paper, and I had to start all over again. But now I'm here to draw the picture that I want. So the last 17 years, things have been going good. CEO of Move Human Performance Center. We've expanded. We've worked a lot with NBA players. I work a lot with the NFL guys. We've done some great stuff, but more importantly, recently I got this book out, and the book is 10
Yeah.
Codes to Transform Your Life. I do this every day inside the walls here, but I can only reach so many people. I can do podcasts. I can talk to other people, and so I can reach out that way. But this book, my wife gave me for my 50th birthday. She says, "I got this present for you. You're going to write this book finally." And I thought that's perfect, man, because that's the gift that keeps on giving. You know,
Hmm.
she's gonna give me
Yeah.
the
And
gift,
that's
and
your
I'm gonna.
imprint, right?
It is,
That's
yeah,
an
yeah,
imprint on the
yes,
world and hopefully on a lot of people that pick it up, man.
yeah. But it's again, I call it a book link right now. It's a book link. Keep the chain going. Just like a chain link. I want this
Hmm.
chain. And the more we do that, we can help out men that have been in bad positions. When we've counted ourselves out because everybody else counted us out. I tried to get a job. They said, "No, you're a convicted felon. I can't hire you." You know,
Yeah.
okay, go start my own business. Okay, that makes sense. Look at me now,
Yeah.
type thing. So it's
Yeah.
because us people that are here talking, including you, man. We've got one thing is that we don't like to be defeated. We don't like to be
Yeah.
defeated.
Hate
You
that
know,
shit, man. Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Only the strong
Yeah.
survive, right? We hear that all day long.
Yeah.
Only the strong survive. We hear that in the hood all day long. It is
Well, I
true, but
told you offline here is like there is no failure in my blood. You know what I mean? We were talking that before. Like I just, you know what I mean? And the same with you. I can see it. You know what I mean? We have the same mentality. There's many out there that have the same mentality, and I think that's the way that we grew up too. Is a big part of it.
yeah, but that's a big part of us also that gets in trouble, but we also
Yeah.
get out of
Yeah.
it, and we can make and
Definitely.
we
Yeah.
can make these changes. Extreme athletes
Yeah.
or just people living the life in the streets. We live life on the edge, and we want to see how
Yeah.
close to that edge we can get without going over. Right? We know
Yeah.
we'll be fine. We'll be fine, and that's just how we live. That's how we live. But again, we learn through curiosity. I know I learned through curiosity.
Oh yeah.
And these people
Yeah.
say, "Oh man, I would never go to the streets. I would never go do that. I'd never do drugs." Okay, well that's good. You're not learning. I'm not saying to go do it, but I'm just, I've been very fortunate for what I've done, because now those are learning experiences for me. I've never taken
Yeah.
those losses.
Yeah.
When we talk to somebody that's overcoming a substance abuse or something, we've been there. We know what we have to do for that.
Yeah.
Don't go and pick it up. It's pretty easy. If you don't want to get high, don't go pick up the shit to get you high. If you
Yeah.
got a gambling habit, don't go to the casino. I see this all day long. A
Yeah.
bunch of junkies, they end up at the casino. That's the last place y'all should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, there's nothing,
Definitely.
nothing good's going to happen there except for you're going to get y'all jonesed out. You're going to be losing.
Yeah.
You might even score and you might even hit big and you get that release of dopamine. And it's like, well, hey, let's go get high now.
And then it's gone again. Yeah. And gone in hours, man, even minutes, sometimes, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
again, chasing the dragon or chasing the high, that's all we do. That's all we do that time.
Yeah.
So that's a stressful life. So I wrote this book. I put everything, starting with chapter 1, self-identity. We got to know who we are. First thing you got to do is you got to
Yeah.
know who you are. And it does come from your background. You know your DNA. We know things that we have. One of my guys had a shirt on the other day. He says, "My kids laugh at me because they think I'm crazy. I laugh at them because they don't know that it's hereditary." Right? And so you got to know where your DNA is a little bit. And I hear people say all the
Yeah.
time, "Oh, that's just who I am," or "This is where I come from." That's not true. That's not true. We can change that.
Yeah.
My parents, they drink. My dad drinks, and it's just part of the country lifestyle that he was. I got 6 DUIs. Not proud of it, but drinking was okay. The reason why I don't drink anymore is because I got to go against my DNA on that aspect. It's not good for
Yeah.
me. Shit
Yeah.
happens. And that's just me. If you grew up in the hood, you can't say, "Well, that's just where I come from," because people want to try to get the fuck out of there, you know?
Yeah.
And you can make your own choice. I know a lot of white people, they like to go to the hood. This number one purchaser of hip hop music and dope is a suburban white kid because they get sucked
Hmm.
into that lifestyle. They think it's cool, including
Yeah.
me. I was down there running around South Phoenix with all the brothers and the Pisces and everything else. But that's life. That's life. So
Yeah.
I wrote this chapter with stories, but there's a lot of wisdom in there. Every chapter gives you a code to transform your life. When you change your circle, you change your life. Environment,
Yeah.
it's not the place that you're at, it's the people that you're around. So I give these codes in there. And I know we talked earlier, is that everybody wants to know the why, why does this happen to me or why do I do this? And with this book really is about the how. It's how to do it. It's how to ignore the noise and it's how to build unshakable self-belief. And that's really what it's got to come into. It's those two things. Cannot control the noise. That's everything that's on the outside, the distractions, the drugs, the ladies, the sex, the gambling, whatever's that's trying to suck you in. You got to learn to ignore that and how you do that. What's one of the things we have to figure out. At the same time, as we're trying to figure all that out, we have to figure out what is going to be for us to be the best version of ourselves and who we are. So at the end of the day, you got to find out and you got to know who you are. My 30 months in prison, it gave me a lot of time to think about it. It gave me a lot of time
Yeah.
to think about it.
Well, I imagine you're by yourself, right? So you really got to know yourself, right? You got to
Biggest thing.
really, yeah,
Biggest
yeah.
thing.
And
Well,
that's the hardest things too. Is like the conversation. I say this all the time. One of the hardest conversations you'll ever have is with yourself.
all day.
That's,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And being in jail, you definitely know that because you really have yourself.
Yeah, especially after the first year goes by. Normally, time to
Yeah.
do shit. I know I'm going to get out of here in a couple months. I can do a couple months upside down. Now after about 2 years, I tell everybody you have to have about 2 years in prison for you to change. I think so, because first you play the victim. I've never been a victim in anything that I've done. All of my shit's through entertainment purposes. I was in the hood. I was homeless, basically living on the streets, just making a hustle to hustle, staying with a friend. But I chose to do that. It was fun for me.
Yeah.
When I went to California, I got away from all the drugs out here. I went to California. I found it in Oakland, California as well. That was fun for me, chasing it, trying to score it. That's half of the battle. Shit, I went to Jacksonville, Florida. I was with my buddy. We had to move his wife back here. We went over there and we scored some coke while we were over there. How did you figure it out? Go to the strip club. Find the white guy with
Yeah.
the bandana on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll
Yeah.
show you all day long where it's at. It's not that hard. So
Yeah.
that's the thrill. Half of the thrill is getting there. But to me now, the bigger thrill is staying out of it. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Good for you, man. Good for you. So can you go over just a couple things in your book there that's like you think that's most important, that's really going to resonate the most, I think, with any reader?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that when you've looked for help everywhere in classes and counseling, and you looked and you've done all these courses and all these programs, when you've looked for that, but we still slip back. I said earlier, I'm not a big advocate of the AA programs or the NA programs because on the 12th step, everything ends on the 12th step. Most people relapse on step 13. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when they see they feeling of accomplishment, they get the feeling of making the 12th step and they're good for a couple weeks, maybe a month or whatever. But then something comes in and entices them and they fall off. They start back at 1. So with this, it's a lot of self-help, but it all goes back to yourself, and it goes back to the choices. I think the biggest thing about it is choices, which is chapter 2. Is the glass empty or the glass half full? I think it's overflowing. It's overflowing with
Yeah.
opportunities. But the problem is we get sucked into one way thinking that, well, hey, I'm almost there. I'm halfway there or I'm doing okay. No. You're doing better than what you were. You're still going. You're still going.
Yeah.
And it's just having an optimistic mindset. That's the other thing. As you go through a lot of shit in life, and I know you just went through some more stuff. It's very easy to become negative. It's very easy to
Yeah.
lay down. It's very easy to surrender. But that's not
Yeah.
the easy part. That's not the easy part. The easy part is going to be once you went through all this shit, and I call it the buffalo mind. The buffalo is the only animal that turns into the storm, right? So as we're running from the storm's chasing us. It's going to be following us for whatever, 1 week, 2 week, 1 day, whatever it is. But we're going to get tired. Sooner or later, that storm is going to pass us. We've been in the storm
Yeah.
running for the full week. The buffalo, as soon as he sees the storm coming, he goes right back into the storm. 2 days later, he got sunny
Crazy.
days. He got sunny days.
Yeah.
I tell everybody down here, we got to approach this with a buffalo mindset. We're going to face anything that life throws at us, and we're going to get through it. While everybody else is running and struggling and trying to find a way out, we've already found the way out. It's on the backside on those sunny days. But it takes with a clear thinking. You have to have a clear thinking to do it all. So again, just achieving that buffalo mindset. But that's, again, living in harsh
I love
conditions.
that, man.
Yeah, and
Love that.
one of my biggest things to have. You see the picture of the buffalo with the frozen tundra, the mouth. I mean, it's harsh conditions,
Oh,
but he's still surviving. Why is that? Because he faces every storm
Yeah.
and gets right through it. So that's the mentality that we have. So I got a lot of scenarios, a lot of cliches throughout the book, such as, and in my very last chapter, it's have a plan. Fail to plan to fail. We hear that all the time. And so getting out of prison, I had probation and I had restitutions and everything else there. Before, I never really liked to complete probation because probation was something like, oh, hey, man, I already did my time. You can't tell me to do this. Fuck this. I'm
Yeah.
going to go get in trouble. I'll go do something else. But when I became clear-headed and I had time to think for myself about how I was going to make this transformation, probation, a 3-year probation that I had was really just a 3-year goal. I didn't see it as a goal though. I looked at it as a detriment. I looked at it as something negative. But probation is really not negative. It's something that the system is using to help you make every step into where you can do this one in a row for 3 years over. So I
Yeah.
changed my mindset of it all. And it's just like in life, you have to have a goal. You have to have a goal. A lot of people have dreams, you know. We can all dream all day long, but the difference between dreams and goals is goals you write down. So I wrote down all mine in a book. Right? I've got some goals in there, and I put some things in there. And I got all the ink on my body. I've got my story, my tattooed all on my body. I live by my story. It's on me, you know. And that's what I want people to know is that it can happen. But again, you're the living proof of it all.
Well, I say pick your hard. At the end of the day, pick your hard. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I
Mhm.
mean, is it, being, I hate to say, but mopey and down and just, sitting in it, is that harder than, putting in the work and then being healthy and loving life at the, pick your heart at the end.
Long you, I see people coming here, they've got just like a simple meniscus or a knee injury or just a little tiny injury, and it's like the world fell down on them. I got my dude
Yeah.
that's been on fire for 2.5 minutes. Car fire, tried to commit suicide. He had a 2% chance of living, so he was having a hard time. Baby mama drama. Ended up getting in a domestic violence fight, so he got arrested. Had to go back home with mom and dad. He didn't want to be there, so he took his car up. He was going to light it on fire and then crash it off a cliff. And then
Oh
hopefully the
man.
crash was going to kill him, and then it was going to be over with. So he texts mom and said, "Hey, I appreciate everything that you've done." Da 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 da. Send her a text. Thankfully, she had his location on, and so she knew where he was going. He was going up to the road and over down in Tucson, and they got there about the same time that this whole incident was going down. And he did. He lit his car on fire. He went off a cliff. Unfortunately, it didn't kill him, so he got out of the car. Mom or his dad was there. The police was there to fire. They put the fire out. The only problem, it was rainy. It was in Tucson, and it was rainy. They couldn't get the helicopter in there, so they had to put him by ambulance about 2 hours to Phoenix. When he got there, I know the
Yeah.
hospital, they gave him a 2% chance of living. And now JJ's back. He's doing good. He's got some scars on him, But like I
Good for
tell him,
him, man.
I say scars tell a story, bro. Scars
Yeah,
tell a
man.
story,
Ain't
and
that the
you're here.
truth, brother?
And you're here.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, it's a battle
For
every
a
day because
reason too, man.
sure,
For
for
a
a reason.
reason. You
Yes,
know?
yes, for a reason. And that's why we
Yeah.
keep coming back. It
Yeah.
could have been very easy to surrender in that situation. Like I told them, and I'm honest with these people, just like being in prison, and my story being out there. I held that story in for a long time and people didn't know. But it was a big weight that I had on my back. Until
Yeah.
2021, I was on a podcast and I let my whole story go out. And then everybody was like, bro, they've got to hear this. People got to hear your story because
Yeah.
it is from being a jackass, being a knucklehead to changing it around. But it's been very simple because I made the right choice.
Yeah.
And that's really what it boils down to. When JJ comes in, I read, first thing I do, I grab him and I touch him because people don't like the way that the burns look. And they're like, oh man, he's kind of fucked up. So nobody wants to touch you. Physical touch is key. We all need physical touch.
Yeah,
We
man.
all need it.
Definitely.
I spent 3 years. I seen a lot of other things going down with guys that were touching other. That
Yeah.
ain't me, bro. That's
Yeah.
not me. I'll wait till I get out. And there's obviously, like I said, there's codes of conducts and things that are in there. But
Yeah.
when we do things and we're the good people, is that there's things we all need, especially as guys. We need some touch. So I touch JJ when
Yeah,
he comes
man.
here to let him know, like I'm not worried about what your scars look like or what your skin feels like. I'm here for you. First thing I talk to him, I say, so why did you get out of the car? If you wanted to commit suicide and you didn't want to be there, why'd you get out of the car? He said, because it was fucking hot, bro. I had no option. And that's the reflexes, right? And that's the whole body's
Yeah.
mindset. Like we know what's going to be done for us, situations. I don't know how I got out of it, but it just happened because we knew
Yeah.
that we had to get out of a bad situation.
Yeah.
The body's instincts happen.
Yeah.
And so JJ is one of my guys I'm working with right now. Just an awesome, awesome kid. He's got a newborn baby now, so he's got another baby, which is good.
Awesome.
He's got a new
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, he's got a new girlfriend. He's doing good. Matter of fact, he just sent me a picture the other day. He got my book off Amazon. He's like, I can't wait to read it. So I've got a story that's inside my book about another burn guy that I worked on years ago. It is the same thing. He was in a big oil fire. He got like 67% of his body was on fire. Baby, young kid, Southsider from LA, always looking clean. Everything's pressed and ironed, all his clothes, like a little homie. He had another one, and it was another situation, a young kid that was just, a bad deal. And I know when he left and went to Texas, I got a call from his landlord, and he says, hey, he left his gun here. Can you come and get it? Now, mind you, I'm a convicted felon. I can't pick it up. But my
Yeah.
wife went and picked up the gun, and he told me, he says, Chad, I put it away on top of my refrigerator because there was a couple nights I was, I had some bad thoughts in my head. But I had my family. I see my little baby daughter. I see my boy there. I knew what it was. And I put my gun up on top of the refrigerator,
Yeah.
I forgot all about it, which is good. I'm glad he forgot about it
Yeah,
because that showed
thank
that his
God,
mind
man.
because his
Yeah.
mind was in a good situation, a good place. He said, "But I forgot about it when we left, and so I had to go back and I had to get, I had to get there." So we got it, we sent it to him legally. We sent it to him legally, but this is making a difference. And then again, this is why you got this
Yeah.
podcast. It's all
Yeah,
in the
man.
mind. It's all in the mind.
Yeah.
So
Mine.
a lot of those
And
stories.
well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like it's the hardest battle. The
Yeah.
mindset is the hardest battle, but it's gonna be the greatest battle that you have too.
Yep. Well, I always say that the brain is just a hard drive. That's just like the hard drive of a computer, and your mind is the
Yeah.
software. And the
Yeah.
software's got to be
Yeah.
updated. The software's got to be
Yeah,
updated,
man.
and it's
Yeah.
updated daily. That's why people that just sit there not doing nothing, they got that old outdated version. They got the floppy disk still going down over there,
Yeah. A-track
where
shit. Yeah, man.
yes. Yeah, we're like right now people are doing AI and everything's going linear. The fast
Yeah.
signals that everything's going through that they're doing this all off of your brain. They're doing it all off your brain, and
Yeah.
that's where they've done the mapping. So they
Yeah.
have like the neural mapping for it all, and that's really what it is. And so when we start thinking right, everything flows right. And it
Yeah.
is, your life flows good. Like you said, you got another lady that come in that might have been said to you. But this is what happens when we do good.
Yeah,
Good things
man.
happen to
Yeah.
good people. I think that the biggest thing I get the question is why do bad things happen to good people? I hear that all
Yeah,
the time.
man.
You
All
know,
the time. I hear it too. And like I say it too. Just because you do bad things doesn't mean you're a bad person, you know?
right?
I mean,
And vice
I've
versa, right?
done a lot of stupid shit in my
Well,
time, man. You know what I mean? And I hurt a lot of people. I'll be honest, right? I hurt
sure.
a lot of people. Do I regret it? No, but am I sorry for doing that? Yes, because I don't regret anything because it made me who I am today. And I'm sorry that you had to be that part in my story, but that was your life to come into my story to put me, and I had an impact somehow in your story.
Yes.
But that's gonna either
Huge.
make you or break you at the end of the day. And I don't regret that, but I am sorry I
Yeah.
have.
Well, and we talk about, I talk about too, and everybody here, is you got gratitude, right? You got gratitude. And so a lot of
Yeah.
people think, is gratitude an action or is gratitude a feeling? Most of the time people think that gratitude's a feeling because they're thankful for things. I'm thankful for food on the table, a roof over my head, a girl at night, whatever it is that we're thankful for. And that does give you a feeling of happiness. Gratitude does give you a feeling of happiness and of being a well-being. Now, we're told to have a gratitude journal, write down things that you're thankful for. We hear it all the time. And people do that. I was talking and listening to this one psychologist, and he says, and that's good. He says, but we have to have a contribution journal too. Contribution journal is
Mm.
gratitude, but it's given. You helped out the old lady at the grocery store by opening the door. Something that you contributed. I gave the guy that was broken down on the side of the road a push to the gas station. Whatever it was. But you write those down in your contribution journals, not just things that you're thankful for, but something that you're thankful that you contributed to. When you
Yeah.
do a contribution journal, you're happy, but you also are productive. Whereas a
Yeah.
gratitude journal just means happiness. If
You're
you do a
taking, right? That's just taking
it's all
instead of
take and
giving.
yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
inward. So now we go about gratitude. Is it an inward feeling or an outward action? Right. And a lot of
Yeah.
times we take everything in. We want that self-acceptance. We want everything being in. But there's times of contributions. You're giving everything to all these people that are listening to the shows and the episodes. You're contributing by having my story on here. I went back and listened to your story. And like I said, Beta, I'm just astonished at the shit that you've been through and as strong as you are for making this. Most people would have folded like a lawn chair in the positions that they
Yeah.
were in. You
Yeah.
know, but again, at the end of the day, only the strong survive.
But and that's why I do this too, to show that, I'm just your ordinary Joe. I struggle, like I said earlier, I struggle with depression. I struggle
Uh-huh.
every day, but I show up and do this. And this is why Raw Minds was made, is because when I lost my fiance, I felt really alone. And I
Yep.
didn't want other people to feel like that, especially men, because we don't show our feelings. So
Right.
I created Raw Minds to show other men that, just because, you feel this way, you're not alone. I feel this way. I feel this on the daily. I'm not scared to tell you guys how I feel on my podcast. Before I'll be like, fuck no, the
Yep.
mentality. But after having my daughter, being a father and showing how fucked up this world is and losing so much,
Mm,
friends and everything and seeing everything, it's time for a change. And that obviously other way's not working. So why not try this way? And it seems to be working. Like, I just hit 71 countries. We're huge, getting big, and it's amazing. And I'm glad it is reaching out people. And I'm getting amazing emails and finding amazing guests like yourself.
the biggest thing, you got to be vulnerable. You got to be
Yeah,
vulnerable. And a
yeah,
lot of people are vulnerable when we deal with athletes, and we look at sports is about 15 years ahead of businesses right now because they have a sports scientist that comes into all these organizations. It used to be the strength trainer, but they don't care about guys like me. You're
Yeah.
nobody. Now I need to have the sports scientist there, and he's going to tell
The
me about your
data.
physical. I need all the
Yeah.
data stuff. I need to. Why is this
Yeah.
guy prepared, or why is he performing, and why is the other guy's not performing? Right. So they're looking for performance in sports. When you go into business and meetings and the CEOs are sitting there, you have HR, somebody that's looking for complaints. Right.
Yep.
They're not looking
Ain't
for the
that the
data. They're not
truth?
looking for the good data. They're
No.
looking for the shitty shit. Right.
Yeah.
They're more
Yeah.
worried about results instead of actually what they're
Yeah.
producing, what we're
Yeah.
producing over here. And that's
It's all
why
about
sports is
protecting their entity, right? It's about not, yeah, it's protecting the entity. That's big.
Exactly. And so now when I go into athletes and I have 100 of them in a room and I ask them, who wants to be great? They're all going to raise their hand. Right. So I take
Yeah.
and I go into a room of 100 CEOs and I ask them who wants to be great. They're all going to raise their hand as well. So they're all equal on that aspect. Now, when I walk back into the locker room and the 100 athletes and I say, well, who's willing to take a risk and get exposed in order to be great? They're all going to raise their hand because Michael Jordan's going to miss a free throw. I'm going to miss a shot on the ice. I'm going to miss a fly ball. Shit's going to happen. But then when I go back into the 100 executives and I say, who's willing to be great with taking risks? Only about 2% of them will. Right?
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
want to take the risk because they don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Ain't
They
that
don't
the
want to be
truth?
vulnerable. And so athletes, when we have this mindset or things that we've done, be putting ourselves in vulnerable situations, we know how strong that is, right? But people don't put themselves in that position. They don't know what they have. They want to stay on the weak
Yeah.
side because they're playing it safe. Playing it safe is not going to win for you. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And well, and I find that you grow most when you're the most uncomfortable, and a lot of times you have to, well, actually, I think all the time you really have to, depending on the situation, let's say that, but you got to
Sure.
step out of that zone. And that's how you grow. How else are you going to grow? How else are you not going to know if you like that or anything? Like I heard this and I quote it all the time. And I believe it was from Will Smith. And, you want to go, skydiving, right? But you're scared to go skydiving. So you're already failing in your head, like, no, I'm scared, but you're still gonna go because you have to. So now you're driving to the place and you're even more scared, like, I can't do this, I can't do this. You get to the plane, you're up, you're strapped in, and now you're shitting bricks, like, no, I can't, I'm scared, like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna scared. You go out and you have the best time of your life. That whole time there, you've already failed. You're teaching yourself that you failed. But now you're coming down like, what the fuck was I scared of? This was amazing. So you're
Yep.
setting yourself up for failure. And that's what a lot of times it happens. You know what I mean? And people are too scared to push forward.
Sure. And that's even in life, opening up a business. When I was in my company forever, and when I opened this up, I was like, but honey, I mean, this is a big step. I'm going to be losing some income. She says, it doesn't matter. We'll
Yeah.
make it back. My
Yeah.
dad lost his business in 82, 84. He was the one that would put the money and help support me with my business to get it open. But he didn't want to do it at first because he lost his. He's not a high risk guy,
Mhm.
just because he's been through something such as, that could have lost him. So he told me, he's like, son, are you willing to lose your family and willing to lose your house and lose everything to open up Move? And I said, yes, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen. We opened up Move. We started doing all of our stuff. Now, it just was a hard situation because my wife ended up being here working with me. She was a bartender, so she had her own job. But when we opened up Move, I needed her here. So we put two incomes into one. We just remodeled our house that we had in Gilbert, Arizona. We remodeled the whole thing. She came to me one day. She says, honey, we got to sell our house, man, because we're about 50,000 upside down in credit cards. My dad asked me, are you willing to lose your house? I told him it's never going to happen. Here we are at that junction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fuck yeah, let's do it. Whatever we got to do, because I mean, this is
Yeah.
what we have. We got to, where everything's invested. And it's like my relationship or it's like my recovery. I'm all in. I'm all in. And we
Yeah.
hear that all the time. Everybody's got to be all in, but they're not. They sober 2
Yeah.
days out of the week. They get fucked up for, I was good for 2
Yeah.
weeks. I relapsed. No. My wife and I, we work together. We do everything together. We're together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And people say, how do you do that? I said, because when I signed up with her and I got married and I got together with her, I knew she was my savior. And I was all in because I knew she's going to be the one
Yeah.
to push me to make me that better person. And that goes
You're
back
rock.
off yeah. And that goes back off the identity that we talked about, is that she's pushing me to do different things that I would have never done before. Right. She's my motivation behind me. She's the one that's pushing me up in
Yeah.
the plane. She's the one that's getting ready, with this book was out. She's like, are you about ready to jump out this plane? Because we got this book launch coming. We're going.
Mhm.
But that's what you need, is you need somebody there to support you. And when I
Yeah.
do that, my self-identity, your self-identity is never fixed. It's always fluid, right?
Yeah.
So all of these tasks and all these feats that we have and that these great accomplishments that we're making, this is just making us a better person, but it's also teaching us, and we're learning, we're learning.
Yes.
And you learn by doing. You learn by doing.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of times too, though, we're so focused on one thing that we miss everything else around us too. Like there's that exercise where say you're in a room, right? And I tell you to look around the room and look find everything that's blue. And I tell you to close your eyes, right? And then I tell you now, tell me everything that was red in the room. Well, you're not looking for all the red stuff because you're looking for the blue. So you're so focused. You know what I
Right, right,
mean?
right. Yep,
And it's
yep.
a great exercise, and that's what it is. So all these other things, or it's like the red car, blue car. You're driving here. I told you, watch all the blue cars. When you get here, I say, how many red cars did you see? Well, you red cars are passing you, but you're too focused on the blue cars, and those are opportunities that are passing you. You know,
Right.
it's just matter. You got to open up and see these opportunities and be able to grab them instead of just focusing on one thing. Like I'm saying is, you know, it's failure. Everybody's focused, oh, it's a failure, whatever's going to be the outcome. But there's all these other amazing things that are around you that you're just not seeing because you're so focused, you know, on
W
this one thing. And a lot of people, we got to open up our minds more. I think that's a huge thing that, you know, lacking.
Well, yeah, yeah, you always hear FOMO, right? FOMO, fear of
Yeah.
missing out.
Yeah.
One of the guys, he says FOPO. It's fear of people's opinions,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Feel the fear of
Yeah.
people's opinions. And so just like
Yeah.
you were talking about is what we noticed, there was a research that they did and they had this guy put on, it was an ugly ass t-shirt, one of the ugliest t-shirts you could find. And they said, we're going to have you walk in this room. There's going to be 100 people sitting at their desks, or whatever. You're going to walk into this room and you're going to sit down. Right. So he goes in, he walks into the room, sits down. They said, now go ahead and walk out. And they asked him, they said, now how many people do you think noticed your ugly t-shirt when you walked in there? He said, well, probably about 50 to 60% of them, I think, were looking at me. Right. So they said, okay. Now they went back in there and they asked the people in the room, they said, somebody just walked in here with a t-shirt. Can any of y'all tell me what a t-shirt was? And only about 25% of the people saw and noticed the t-shirt. So we already magnify everything by two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What we
Ain't that the
think is
truth?
that we're already two times ahead. No, they're not going to like me two times as bad, or I'm
Yeah.
not going to fit in two times as bad. We already see this, but that's because again, we're worried about other people's opinions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got kids that I train here, and like I said, I got a lot of people, the professionals and whatnot. And I didn't want their opinions because it's a business, right? I can't
Hmm.
lose business because of people's opinions. I'm a good guy. I've been sober. I've done this. I've done that. I've overcome things. I've helped somebody walk again. Why would I not be your guy? Well,
Yeah.
because you have a criminal record, and I shy away from that. Okay, but that's your opinion. Let's look. Don't do it. I always say,
Yeah.
don't judge a book by its cover. That's another reason why I
Yeah.
got this out. Just because I had no tattoos when I went into prison. I got tattoos. My whole body's tattooed now because it's my whole story. Back in the day, shit, they're like, you don't belong in prison. Now they probably say you do because of all the tattoos or whatever. But again, it's a vision. People see things and they
Yeah.
assume that this is what it is, and it's not. And so that's why when I put this on paper, I signed a copy for the chief of police in Mesa, one of the cities over here. I signed a copy for my book signing party for the chief of police of Mesa. Again, I say I thank you for helping me out. Because my last DUI, I got arrested in Mesa, and I haven't been in trouble
Yeah.
since.
Yeah. So
Most people.
yeah, awesome.
Most people are afraid of the police, and again,
Yeah.
I was the same thing. Fuck the police, fuck these
Yeah.
guys. They try to do stuff, but like when I understand, I put myself in every position. I was a
Yeah.
knucklehead. Half of the shit that I done, the crimes and everything. Nobody should be doing that stuff. But thankfully, that they give us a second chance, and that's what
Yeah.
it's all about: is that second chance. And it could be the third or fourth chances for other, but you can never give up. You can never give up.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And you know what I say? It's like it's okay sometimes to take a knee. You know,
Sure.
it is. It's just get up though, right? Don't stay down and get up.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I always tell people, if you're going backwards, and it's an analogy, but if you're going in your car and you're in reverse, which is going backwards, how do I go forwards? Most people
Yeah.
say you're going to put your car in drive. And I say
Yeah.
that's true, but you don't put your car in drive. You got to go to neutral first. So when you go to neutral, there's taking your knee, right? That's give you the time
Okay.
that gives you that time to think about. And you have to have silence. One of the best things about prison was silence. I could go walk on a
Yeah.
track by myself and sit there. Like you said, sometimes loneliness is good because it can help you figure out what you're going to do. There's only one
Yeah.
person you're listening to, and that's you, right?
Yeah.
And so in the world nowadays, we go out running, you got earphones in, you're on the radio, you're driving your car, you turn the music up, you go to the restaurant, you got somebody yapping in your ear. Silence is golden, and so one of my
Yeah.
things that I have people do is you have to take about 10 or 20 minutes a day and sit in complete silence. And you have
Yeah.
to do that because that lets you hear yourself, and then it lets you redirect and regroup. When you do that, then you can come back out and follow the actions of your plan that you have. But you have to sit in silence, and when you're in silence too, that allows you to breathe. I think breathing is one of the biggest things we don't do. Anxiety,
Huge, man.
depressions, because we carry so much tension, we don't let our lungs expand.
Yeah.
And when we don't let our lungs expand and we don't let that stuff happen, we feel like the world's closing in on us. We feel like our lungs are closing in on us, and we feel being shackled from the waist to the feet and being shackled to the plane. That was restricted. Nowadays, shit, we move it.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Well, I just want to touch though on like breathing is huge. Like I do breathing exercises. I
Yep.
do intervals of 4 seconds. Um,
Yep.
and at the same time as I do, I don't know if you know what butterfly taps are as well.
Mhm.
So you hold your arms, right? And yeah, the best, like me personally, if it was sunny out, I'd love to do it outside, man, because you ground yourself with the feet off. Like I'm very spiritual,
Sure. No,
but I
yep.
mean, I like breathing. Just like if I'm having like a hard day, you do a good breathing exercise, and I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it's like weight just off your shoulders,
It
and
is.
it's amazing what it does. Like look at Wim Hof. Like do you know Wim Hof?
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Amazing, just amazing, right? And like his like what he can, it's like what sit in like cold
Ice
water. He climbed or ice water. He climbed Mount Everest in what shorts and or
shorts. Yep.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah. Times Square, they had him in that big old tank of ice. I think he was sitting in
Yeah,
there where the world record was 15 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes, I think, or whatever he was trying
yeah,
to get. But that goes
yeah.
to like, the cold water therapy that they have and we have a cryo tank here at Move too.
Nice.
Doing the research on it, what they found out is that, and you're a classic example is that, people stress on things differently, right? But they found out there's only two things that people stress on the same: hot and cold. It could be death of
Yeah.
a member, it could be putting a dog down, it could be your fiance, these are all situations, but that's all, everything's relative. Like you said, is
Mhm.
that you saw a lot of deaths because your mom, your relatives wanted to pass away at the house and wanted to be under the care of your mom. So you've
Yeah.
seen a so death probably doesn't bother you much. I mean,
It doesn't at all, really, man. Yeah.
you probably know that. So, for somebody that hasn't had anyone pass away, they're going to handle it differently. But when they've done researches for the brain and the mind, they notice that it's hot and cold, that are two people stressed the same. Arizona, we don't stress on the heat. A lot of people go to the saunas and stuff here, the hot tubs, but that doesn't matter to us because we're in 127 degrees anyways. But we
Yeah.
stress on the cold because it doesn't really get cold here. So that's why cool plunges are a big thing for us. That's why the cryo freezes they're a big thing for us here. But really, what I tell people is that when I put you in my cryo tank here, yes, it's going to help you feel better when you get out because I'm putting you in a stressful situation and you're going to come out of it.
Okay.
It's fight or flight. You're not going to freeze to
Yeah.
death there. Everyone always says, well, how long do I got to be in there before I, get frostbite? I don't know. We've never done it. I can tell you this in 8, 10 minutes is probably going to be good in there. So when you put people in there, again, it's a stressful situation. They can either clam up or they can relax and breathe. And when you
Can
relax
you
and
tell me
breathe,
about that? Can you
yeah,
tell me? Like, I never heard of like I know about cold plunges,
yeah,
but I
yes.
never like I yeah. Please tell me about
Yes.
this.
Yeah. So our cryotherapy chamber that we have, they have the ones that you can go stand in. It's liquid nitrogen. Ours is full oxygen. So it's a full chamber you're in from head to toe. It's negative 121 degrees. So you got mitts on, you got earmuffs on, and you got socks for your toes. So in the extremities, obviously some frostbite can happen. So we put you in there at negative 121 and you're in there for 6 minutes. Your body temperature going in is about 88 degrees. And then when you get out of there, you're about 48. We try to drop your complete body temperature by about 40 to 50%. That increases your fight or flight, your dopamine, your serotonin, your norepinephrine, which is all your good chemical feel goods, released through the body, feel good high. I like the chambers that they have now instead of like so cool plunges, you're supposed to get as high as you can up to your head. The problem is your brain is the computer. We just talked about that. That's the software.
Yes.
I've got to cool that down. If it's not inside the tank for me, it's efficient, but it's not as efficient as being fully immersed inside the cool tank because your head's inside there. And it gets you to start thinking. So again, yeah, that's one of the cool things that we have here. They started in Germany, and when COVID came around, they were doing shipping containers that were like negative 140, negative 150 that they could ship the vaccine across country to. So they started off with that, and then I think University of Georgia was the first football team college to get it, and I think LeBron James and a couple of other places. Now they're becoming more popular, but we were the first
Crazy.
one in there. Yeah, we were the first one in Arizona with it. So again, I try to tell people, yes, you're putting you in a cold situation, realistically, because even us as parents, we don't want to put our kids in stressful situations. We try to keep them
Yeah.
out of stressful situations.
Yeah.
So we're doing a disservice to them. So a
Yeah.
safe way, instead of taking them to the hood, take them to move and put them inside the cryo chamber, and it's a safer place that we could put them in a stressful situation. Once they do that, now it's one of those things like, okay, that wasn't that bad, right? Exactly, just like
Yeah.
jumping off the
Yeah.
airplane, it wasn't that bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
and now it's one in a row. Now you build on that, and so
So
again,
it's like a tanning bed almost, like, people go tanning and they go like
yeah,
weekly or monthly or whoever. It's kind of like that for that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
You can come you can go every day. They just say you can't go twice within the 12 hours, obviously before. So I got people that come in here every day. We have a special. It's $99 unlimited. You can come in every day. Yep, yeah, and
Okay,
so
cool, man.
it's really, 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 really key for
How are
everybody.
people after, like, they're shivering, but they just like is it kind of almost like the cold plunge, like where you
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
the yeah?
it's like the cool you got the pins and needles when you come out.
Yeah.
With out of that, we have the vibration platforms, and so we stand them on the vibration platforms, and we have them do some stretches on there. Now, vibration is friction. Friction is heat. So basically, we just flash freeze you. We put you in the cryo chamber where everything's cold, and then we put you back on the vibration shakers. We get the circulation going again. So now it takes all your serotonin, dopamine, and everything that flows through the body, and then now you start to get that good feel good plus the reduce of inflammation in there as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Hey, well, speaking of vibration, have you ever heard of sound baths?
No.
Okay, so
What is
I
that?
had Jenny on. I talk about it all the time. I had Jenny on, so she's got these crystal bowls. It's a big thing, sound bath.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see.
yeah, yeah, and then it makes noises, and your body is water, right?
Yeah,
And
yep.
my old co-host Anthony, me and Anthony went to one of her sound baths, and it was in silk hammocks. So we're floating in these silk hammocks, and she did the sound bath with like gongs and music.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, if you've never done it, you gotta experience at least one. It's
My massage,
amazing.
I got a new massage lady that I go to, and when I got done the last time, I looked on the side. They were like big bowls, and she
Yeah,
had them
yeah,
over here.
crystals.
They were sitting on the side of them, and the first time I went there, she didn't do it. And then when I got done the last time, she had me down, and it was right at the very end. And the next thing
Yeah,
you know, she went in there, and like some of them are a deeper vase, and you can hear,
yeah,
they're too,
yeah.
And I know, I did that last time,
Yeah. But it
and
put me to sleep like that, like, and it's a massage, like, but you're not sleeping, but you are. It's weird. It was crazy, man. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, but that goes back into, as we go through life and we go through sports and business and just really life in general, they say you got to balance everything, right? I've got to
Yeah,
have work and I've got to have life. It's 50-50, or you got to have family and friends 50-50. And talking with people is that I really don't know if you can ever balance the stuff, because work is always going
yeah,
to take precedence. I got to have money.
yeah,
I've got to work. I've got to grind. Work is going to be 80-90% of what you do.
yeah.
If you get lucky, you might be able to have a good job that lets you, do something, but it's really going to be more work. But I don't really ever use the word balance. I use the word align. As long as everything's in
Okay.
alignment, we're good. And
Yeah,
that's really what
definitely.
that's really what the sound stuff is, right? When you talk about the
Yeah,
holistic being on the ground, is they're going to get you to a line. I've got a guy that was over in Saudi Arabia. He did like 25 years on USA Track and Field. He's a massage therapist. He does all the chiropractic energy work, and he works on your barefoot. Just a
yeah.
savant of all that stuff. And he'll do it like he'll point at your stomach, right? And he'll have you hold your arm up and he'll push it down. And he'll say, "Is he dehydrated?" And then he'll be like, "Yes." Your hand go down. "Does he need 5 bottles of water?" Then he'll hold it and you'll be strong. I call him Houdini. I don't know how he does it, but it's all the energy stuff. It's all energy.
Yeah,
And it's true when you
yeah,
fall into that and you're in tune with your body and you can align
yeah,
it right, everything's valuable.
yeah,
Everything's valuable. Dry needling. We do dry needling here, which is different from acupuncture, because acupuncture tries to find a chi and they find an inner part of you. But again, that's more of a feeling of everything else. This is more like on a neurological side. But again, it's whatever you can do to get in alignment. That's the biggest thing.
yeah,
And when you get in
yeah,
alignment, everything runs smoothly. I don't think
yeah,
everything's your wheels are never balanced on your car, but hopefully your alignment's good. And if your alignment's good, you're going to go in the
yeah.
right direction. It's going to be a bumpy motherfucking road along the way. But as long as my alignment's good, I know I'll head in the right direction.
Good. I like it, man. The alignment. I like that. Yeah,
You can't,
it makes
we
sense
can't.
too.
It is because we spend so much
Yeah,
time trying to balance stuff. And then we become
yeah.
more off balance
And
trying to
balance is like this, you know what I mean?
Yes,
But when you're
it is.
aligned, you're going like that, man. Yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah. And so,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't use the term balance, and I talk to these people. You can't balance
Yeah.
life and sports when you're traveling, you just got to stay in line with
Yeah.
what's going on. So
Yeah.
that's again just
Yeah.
another methodology that we use.
I love it. I got to ask you a couple questions here.
Sure.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned about leading people?
Don't do what's easy, do what's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
I
biggest
love
thing,
that.
I think a lot of times we know people want to take the easy route out, and the hardest thing for me, and I'm learning more and more, but to say no. The hardest thing is to say no, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes saying no is what's right to do. And again, with me not being able to say no back in the days of drugs and dealings and thugs and that lifestyle, I was the yes guy, when you want to go do something. So right now,
Yeah.
knowing that it wasn't right. It was easy money and it was quick money. There's no such thing as fast money, as well as I do. That shit,
No.
you can make it
Oh
today, that
yeah.
shit's gone tomorrow. But
Yeah.
if you do what's right, that all goes back to that dirty hands and clean hands money stuff. Now, don't do
Yeah.
what's easy, but do what's right.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah, and it's so true because like you feel you just feel more, I don't know, human, I guess you could say, more right. You know what I mean? You just feel more
Yeah.
like good about yourself too. Because if you bring stupid shit into you, man, you're gonna do stupid shit. And like,
Yeah.
or no?
Yeah, well, obviously there's stuff that we've lived through, we've gone through. I'll go back to one day when, I dressed up as a UPS guy and this guy owed some money. And I said, don't worry, I'll go get him for you. All right. So we went
Yeah.
to the guy's house, we knocked on the door of the
Yeah.
box, we grabbed him, we put him in the trunk, and we take him back to the guy that owed him some money. I like to go get clients the other way right now. I like for them to come in my front
Yeah.
door,
Yeah.
move, and let me go get somebody this way. But
Yeah.
again, though, is that by doing that, we put ourselves in these positions, and now everything else it gives you a feeling of sensibility of being right, or just doing
Yeah.
something good, contributing. Like I said,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that was a contribution because I did pick up somebody that owed money, but at the same time, you're not supposed to be doing
Yeah.
that shit,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's yeah,
now,
I
now,
get
now
you,
we're smart
man.
enough. Yeah, now we're smart enough to know that, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to
Well, I
my
mean, that voice in your head now is like really, well, mine anyways, is like got a big microphone now, and he's really setting me on what's right, what's wrong. But another
yes,
question is, if that voice, like this is like just a question out there, is like,
sure.
if you are who you are and your voice is you, who is that voice that's talking in your head because it doesn't sound like you? So who really is talking in your head, right? Like I've
Yeah.
always asked. I know it's a crazy question, but I mean, why not talk about it? This is
Well,
right.
because that the voice that we have, that's the inner critic. That's the inner
Yeah.
critic, right? And,
Yeah.
and the inner critic, it could sound like you. It could sound like your mother. It could sound like your
Yeah.
dad.
I guess so.
It could be that coach that said you were no good, you can't make the team, or you're not going to do this. So, it's the voice that we put in there. But instead of being the inner critic, what we have to do is when we hear that voice, we got to turn that voice instead of a critic, we got to turn it into an inner coach. Right?
Yeah.
So now who's the inner coach? The inner coach is me. Or it's going to be my wife or somebody that's really who it is. That's going to push me to do the best or the right thing,
Yeah. That's on
Uh,
your team.
yeah, yeah. And most of the time it's
Yeah.
going to be you. Like I said, I
Yeah.
got very lucky with my wife and the whole thing, but even though she tells me to do something, each individual is responsible for doing what we want. It's it. We are responsible for
Yeah.
every action that we do. So at the end of the day, that voice that does it has got to be you. My wife, I told her all day long, I said, it'd be interesting to know what I would be at without a prison if I was not with you. And she goes, oh, you would be
Mhm.
fine. You would be fine because, you came out, you're strong willed, you were going to do this for yourself. And I say, I agree with that to a part, but there's always that other side of us that can flip and step back over the line, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would ever go back over there. I've met a lot of different contexts post, getting out post release. There's some guys that dabbled around and did some other stuff. And those were just other great connections. I'm glad I didn't have those back in the day. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but now we're helping those guys out, and I'm trying to help them stay out of trouble and change the lives that they want. And again, they say they're envious because again, I did it. I was in probation, I was in prison. Matter of fact, the one just got out here a little bit ago, and he's like, I'm going to do everything right, because again, there is no easy way out, and there isn't. There's that storm chasing you. Be the buffalo, go right
Yeah.
into it.
Go right. Well, you kind of were touching because I was actually just gonna ask you a kind of like a curveball question. It's like,
Sure.
if you didn't go to prison, where do you think you would be today? Was I was in a kind of
Yeah. If I didn't go to prison, I don't even think I'd be here today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The shit that I was getting into, obviously, just a big magnitude, and it was only going to get bigger. I had the fuck you attitude, like fuck you, don't tell me
Yeah.
what to do. I'll do what I want to do.
I know that. Yeah.
My parents are, like I said, I've been very fortunate. I have no childhood trauma. I have no trauma in my life at all. Matter of fact, I did a podcast the other day. This guy sent me these thumbnails for a podcast. And the first one was, I slept in sewers. I've never slept in sewers before. I've been in shitholes. I've been in jails. I've been in prisons, but I've never been in a sewer. So I told him, I'm like, but that really doesn't even go with our podcast and what we did. So that thumbnail that was made, you might want to change that. And he's like, well, my producer did that. And so here's two other options that he sent over. The other one was, I was abandoned as a
What?
kid. Yeah. Yeah, and I knew it was done off Riverside, so it was kind of easy, to do. So the second one he sent over says, I was abandoned as a kid. I was never abandoned as a kid. My parents were always there for me. They're still there for me, whatever. I was the one that got myself into trouble. So I said, no, that one doesn't even match either, bro. That one's way off the bat. So he sent me over the last one. He said, my mother was my dealer. My mom was not my dealer. Trust, bro. It was
Would they not present in your podcast, doing it with you? Like,
it was bananas. And I don't know, like if he had his Riverside when he went to go do the magic clips and it just gave these thumbnails or whatever. I don't know, but it was not anything to do with it. So I did get him to send me some 3 other ones the next day. Prison was my rock bottom, which that's true, but I've talked about that all the time. That's kind of beat up. The one that I went with was that my last drink saved my life. And that was true. And that was true. The
yeah,
last drink saved my life, So we all have something that would save my life. If it wasn't my last drink, it was my wife, Jackie. When I met
yeah,
her, that was my, and again, that was my why back then. I knew the
yeah,
how was I had to get through this prison sentence. I had to come back out. She was with me for a lot of it too. That's part of the book. You'll find out too, is that there's a lot of love stories. She was with me when I went to prison. We were just dating at the time. People say, why don't you stress? I said, stressful is when your girlfriend drops you off at the Marshalls and you got to self-surrender for 30 months, not knowing if you're ever going to see her again.
yeah,
Or you're gonna get the Dear John letter while you're inside there.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Fuck.
And so it was like, it was like a year that we were in there. I had about a year to come home, as a year and a half, I guess. And she just said, Chad, it's hard for me to bring the kids up there and see you. And then when we leave, they're emotional. It's hard for me to leave when I'm emotional. I didn't put myself in there. You put yourself in there, unfortunately, And so I don't know if I can do this. And so I cut off all ties
Mhm.
with her. I said, oh, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, I cannot sit in here in silence with my head thinking about who's coming over, if you're with another guy.
Yeah,
I can't think about that stuff. I can't do it. So I
yeah,
chose to just cut off all ties with her. Now I got out the first day I got out, I was supposed to be released to her, but that didn't work obviously because we weren't talking or whatever. So my parents came and picked me up and I had about 2 hours before I had to get to the halfway house. And they said, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to the bar and see Jackie. Right. And so I
right,
walked down to the bar, dark. She was working daytimes. I walked in there. She turned around. We caught eyes, gave me a hug. And here we are 20 years later.
yeah.
You
I
know,
remember you telling me that when we
yep.
first met. What amazing! That's
Yep.
crazy. I just got goosebumps right now, man.
Well, that's again, I've been very fortunate, man, that she's been my ride or die, and when you have one of
Yeah,
those, her dad was a drug dealer. So she grew up in that life. She moved out here with her dad at 13, lived in a trailer park with rats and everything else. She got her own story for herself. But at that time, though, she says, you know what? I'm not going to be that person. Drugs are free running
yeah,
around. Her friends are coming over. Dad's offering drugs and doing all that. And she's like, fuck that. I got to get out of here and
yeah,
support myself. So she's a single mother, and I knew that I could help her if I got through this whole prison sentence because I knew I needed that family. I needed her. So as long as I could get through the sentence, man, I knew I could get her.
yeah,
And when I got back, I went back and reintroduced myself. And obviously, she had the same feelings. First year of marriage and second year of marriage was a little rough because the family stuff, combined in us and da 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 da.
yeah,
But after we got through with that, it was nothing but pure love. And there's not one thing that we can't do. I think obviously the more she feeds me, the more fuel I go. But the more I go, she goes. So it's like a
yeah.
perfect combination right there.
I love that, man.
Both of us, we won't be defeated. We won't be defeated.
Well, she strives to make you. You want to. She makes you want to be a better person at the end of the day, and that's what a relationship should really be. And like I'll say this, man, and I say it. I've said it many times. Is relationships aren't 50-50. There is no 50-50. Like sometimes I'm like at 20%. So I need
Yep.
my partner to pick up that 80%.
And that's
You know
exactly
what
what
I
she
mean?
says. Yep.
Yeah, and back and forth. And then in an argument, when you're having an argument with your partner, a lot of people don't understand. It's not you versus your partner. It's you and your partner versus the argument.
Correct.
And a
Yeah,
lot of
you're
people,
right.
don't understand that like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're gonna have different views and stuff, but at the same time, it's you two versus the argument, not you two versus each other. Well, in most situations.
And like I say, her being Italian, and she's the most realist motherfucker I met in my life. She doesn't take shit from nobody because she'll give you everything, but she wants real. That's her character. That's how she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we do get, and very rarely do we ever get in an argument, do we ever fight. But I always tell him, like, honey, you're the last person I want to piss off. I see what you are.
Yeah.
I see what you're about. I'm not trying to piss you off. But then the other day I was listening to something and they says, when you're with your significant other or you're with somebody, your spouse, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever it is, when you guys are getting ready to have a discussion, ask him, say, do you want my input or do you want me to just listen? because a lot of
Mm,
times
okay.
they want you to just listen, but we end up having input, and then it pisses
Yeah.
everything off. And now we, like you
Yeah.
said, now it's you and us against the argument, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now if you want me to just listen, then hey, just let me know, man. I'll sit here and talk, and you can get
Yeah.
that off your chest. So that's one of my new things that I got to work with. Obviously, we don't get enough arguments, or whatever. But again,
Yeah.
I try to offer help for her because she's helped me so
Yeah.
much,
Yeah,
and
man.
so I feel I can offer some help to her. She's the only one I can help,
Yeah.
right? I've tried training her as a personal trainer. Shit, she fired me 5 or 6 times. I'm the only person she's fired me. She's like, you're my husband, not my trainer. Don't tell me what the fuck to
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
But then on the backside, in life, she's telling me what to do every day, which is
Yeah.
perfect. I love it because that's just who I am, and that's what I want. I want
Yeah,
her to help
man.
push me
Yeah. And
become
you're
the best
happy,
person
man. And that's all
all
that
day.
matters. You guys are
Yes,
happy. You know what I
yes.
mean? That's all that matters, man.
And then it's very few at the guys, for us guys here, obviously, let the women, and I let her do her stuff, when she gets really out of hand, obviously we got to reel some stuff back in. But again, we
Yeah.
also create strong women, and I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing also is that we have to have some strong
Yeah.
women. I got very lucky, she saw the stuff as a young kid that she saw. She had her first kid at 18. So all three of the kids, biologically are not mine. But little man was 6 months old when I met him. And so, I've been with them all. They all called me
Mm.
dad.
Yeah,
Um,
it
you
doesn't
know,
matter, man.
no, it doesn't. And even just blood. We talk about blood. Blood's not all, or a family. Blood, family's
Yeah.
not always blood. It's the people that are there for you,
100%, man.
such as your friends you lost. And my
Yeah.
daughter, we always try to talk with her, and she's battling the demons every day. Of trying to just
Yeah.
recover and where she's at, whatnot. And it got to my wife finally got a tattoo on her forearm. It says "Let go."
Yeah.
Let go.
Yeah.
I was talking to you the other day about codependency. And a lot of times, we talk about relationships and being codependent with a boyfriend, girlfriend, with life or whatever. But sometimes parents don't understand too that they're codependent with their kids, right?
Yeah, man.
You got to let those 21-year-old to 27-year-old kids go, and you got to let them run their
Yeah.
life. If you continue to ask and worry about them, what they're doing or what's going on, you're codependent on them, and it's going to cause you to break down mentally and physically as well. But just by stressing on things you can't control.
Yeah. I'm doing that with my kid's mom because like she suffers from addiction, and I try to help her as much as I can. But I'm just feeding her really, and like, how is she gonna learn if I'm just always there? You know what I mean? In the background, and I try to do the best, and sometimes I fight myself in the head because I just want her to be there proper for her daughter. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But at the same time, she's not okay, so it's not a safe spot for her. So I've like blocked her, and I told her she needs to get her shit together. You know what I mean? Until then, because he needs to hit rock bottom, and that's where you're gonna learn, right?
Yep.
That's where
Yep.
you're gonna learn. But I told her I'll be there to help her and pick her back up, but she needs to figure only take
Yeah. And
the water. If that makes
kids learn through imitation. So what they see from us,
Yeah,
is that they see,
yeah. Well, that's a hard. I'm dealing with that right now because she was living with her mom for a while, and it was a nightmare over there. I had child services. I didn't even know what was going on. Right? I'm hearing one thing. She was getting my daughter to lie. I'm hearing one thing, and then all
Yep.
of a sudden I hear what like all the truth. So finally, I got full custody of my daughter. And I
Well,
can see it. And it's a struggle for me to try to dial her back in.
yep.
It's hard, man. It's
And it's hard.
hard, but I mean,
It's hard for the kids too, because they're right in the between,
no,
and they
that's
don't
what I
want.
mean. It's hard.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
Yep.
it's hard for. But she's at the point, and I hate to say this, but she's at the point where she doesn't even want to see her mom because of all the struggle and the
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm trying to push her mom so hard to fight to get that well, so then she can have that relationship. I think it's huge, and I think it's important. Kids should have like I grew up in a broken home. And
Yep.
it really affected me. I mean, I'm okay now as an adult, but I mean, as okay as I can be, dealing with all that
Oh,
bullshit.
shit. Yeah. You're
You know
doing
what I
very well.
mean?
You're doing very well,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to, man. You know what I mean?
Getting
Some
kicked out,
days it's
getting
harder than
kicked down
others,
this.
but
Yeah, getting kicked down the stairs, and that's seen chased with a knife and all that. It's not.
yeah.
That's not normal.
No, well, you can feel it, man. Like people that meet, and you can feel my left rib is never healed. It sticks out of the side of my chest. It's crazy, man. So I always have that reminder. It's even hard to sleep on the left side sometimes because it
Yeah.
pokes into me, right? So it's
Yeah.
always a
Well,
reminder, though.
it's a reminder to how far you come.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly, and,
Mhm.
and how far I'm gonna go too, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that goes, I think you had the one too about burning the boat. I
Yeah.
got I got a big tattoo on my back, and one of the hardest things in life is knowing which bridge to burn and which ones to cross. Because they always say
Yeah.
don't burn a bridge, which
Yeah.
again, when we're running the streets and we gotta, hey, can you
Yeah.
front me some stuff or whatever? I'm not trying to burn no bridges
Yeah.
so I can get the next score
Yeah.
and do whatever. But being in trouble and having to do that, your baby's mom, your daughter's mama, you got to burn those bridges. You can't go
Yeah.
to the dealer's house. You can't do that. You got to burn
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the hardest, that's why I have on my back, it said the hardest decision is know which bridges to cross and which ones to burn.
Yeah.
And I got a
Yeah.
burning bridge on fire and I got Hawaii on the bottom of it all.
I love
Uh,
that, man. That's
I'm
why
going
I
to
got
burn
a can of gas I carry with me. You never know. You know what
it.
I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I say it's okay to burn bridges. Obviously, the right
Yes.
ones, though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But in a professional way. You know what I mean? Not out there like
Right.
fuck you, everybody,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah. Like,
You know what
no,
I mean? But
I'm not crossing over that one because I know what's over there. That's the
yeah,
lifestyle I
but I
don't want
mean,
to live.
protect your peace, man. At the end of the day, you got to protect your peace and what's around you because fucking people will steal that shit. You know?
I say there's more sharks on land than there are in water.
Fucking right. That's true, man.
Hmm.
That and snakes.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's snakes. I got one fear. I got one fear in life, and that's a snake. And it's
Yeah,
a real snake, but it's also a snake as a person.
snake. Yeah.
It being in the criminal industry that we were in, you can smell those snakes. Those
Oh
snakes
yeah.
are out
Yeah.
there, but them are them guys that are slimy and all that shit that we don't associate with no more. You know,
No, no.
and as you
Well,
know,
that's
as
what I
you
was saying.
guys,
Why I stick to myself now. You know what I mean? I just,
yes,
and like we were saying before, like my whole thing now is if I'm not the smartest person, I mean, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
yeah,
That's my whole
exactly.
mentality now. I want to learn, and
Hmm.
become better. And like this world keeps on turning, man. And like we were saying, if you don't move with this world, you're gonna get left behind. And you don't want to
Yes.
be left behind.
Yeah, it's got to be fluid, and it's as I take in with this book that this book really was a tool. So I know a lot of people write a book just so
Oh,
they can tell their story, and it being a memoir that I wrote, but also it being a tools of transformation. So I want to use this book as a tool so that I can go do speaking gigs. I want to be in front of
oh
50,000
yeah.
people. I want to talk to, and it doesn't matter if it's CEOs, it could be addicts. I talked to my coach today. That was one of our coaches. That he was a teacher when I was in prison about possibly going back to the prison and talking to the inmates that are in there and giving them a chance of
Oh, wow.
relief, and just,
Yeah.
hey, I was sitting in the same cell you guys were in. Here we are 17 years later, a CEO of a company, train a lot of high profile people, do what I got to do. But it's again
Mhm.
because I never quit and I never gave up,
And especially the youth too, man. That's where it starts. You know what I mean?
especially the youth. Yes, especially the youth.
Yeah.
And a lot of the feedbacks, that the book has been out now. It was out the 28th, and so it's on. I get people now sending me back the reviews. A lot of the reviews that I get right now is like, this is a great book for any young men to read because it's going to take through the lifestyles, the thugs and drugs. It's going to take you through that. It's going to take you through prison, and it's going to take you also through getting out of that. What would my life have been if I didn't get in trouble? We talked about that the other day.
Hmm.
What would you be doing if you weren't doing this?
Yeah.
Obviously, I probably would have had a little bit better schooling or more of a purpose of doing something. I would have been a trauma surgeon. I would have helped people that would have been gunshot wounds or somebody that would have got fucked up or whatever. I would have been doing a trauma surgeon because, again, I
Yeah.
care about helping people and I want them to perform
Yeah.
at their best level.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, man. I've been in construction for 18 years, right? And I actually just walked away from it because it just doesn't fill my bucket anymore. I'm actually in the midst of trying to write out some programs, become a life coach on grief. So
Yep.
that's
Good.
my new journey, right? And to
Good.
help. I mean, I know grief. Why not?
Oh,
That's this is.
you
Do I
you got
ever
enough.
know it? You know what I mean?
You've got
Yeah.
enough stuff. You could definitely
Right.
help people, bro.
And I the way that it's not gonna be your normal way. Like I'll tell you straight up bullshit. Like I mean not bullshit, but I'll tell you
Yeah.
the real bullshit that people tell you, like
Right.
it's gonna be okay. No, it's gonna fucking suck.
Yep.
It's gonna fucking suck.
Yep.
I'll be truth about it. You know what I mean? I think that's what's gonna I hope, break me away from the rest. Just be real.
But that's what
Kind of
this
like
world
how you're doing your thing.
But that's what this world needs nowadays, and that's why I wrote this book. I grew up doing
Yeah.
construction as well, so my background was in construction because I got into construction because I like to build things,
Me too, man. Yeah.
and now I'm doing the same thing, but I'm building people.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's
Yeah.
still construction, but it's human construction, right?
Human construction.
And so now that I've done this here, I want to go do the speaking stuff. So now I'm going to do construction through speaks, right? So through speaking
Fuck yeah.
engagements. It's still building things, and what we're doing is we're building a better future, and that's really what we're
Yeah.
trying to do. So you'll still be doing construction. You look at the,
Yeah.
you talked about the things what people are looking for about it's going to suck, it's going to struggle. We talked about earlier, is that things have been a little struggle. As long as you struggle in the right direction, it's fine.
Yeah.
because the shit
Fail
never.
forward, I say.
Yes, it's gonna. Yeah, you're gonna get to the top
Yeah.
of the mountain. It's gonna be a struggle to get there. It's definitely. But people are always looking for sympathy. That's what they're looking for in
Yeah.
this life. They want
Yeah.
somebody to take care of them. Put up a GoFundMe. I see this all day long. GoFundMe. No, go get a fucking job. Go get a job.
Yeah, man.
You know,
Yeah.
we had the shutdown over here in the U.S. Everyone's worried about all the benefits and the government's being shut down and this and that. It's like, go get a job. You shouldn't be relying on the government for your money anyways right now.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
understand situations happen. Man, people need help. But like when it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're giving an interview and you're in your pajamas and you're not looking for a job and you're not looking for help,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
other people that are out there doing some things. So,
Yeah.
it's about that. There's an old saying that my buddy had. He was a trainer with the 49ers. He said, if you're looking for sympathy, you can find it in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. Right?
I love it.
So that's what I always say when people come in and I say, now, if you're looking for sympathy, you can find a dictionary between shit and syphilis, bro. That's the only place, right?
I love it, man. I might have to steal that, brother. That's
Feel
awesome,
free.
man.
Feel free, guy. Feel free all day long.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
Well, I just want to say, man, I thank you so much. If you can just plug all your stuff one more time, it'll be all in the description as well, so people will be able to reach out. But please, if you can plug it again, so people know where to get you.
You can find everything mindovervirtuallyeverything.com. You can find it moveperformance.com, Chad Dunn 22 on Instagram, right? And then also Move Performance on Instagram.
There it is too. So if you guys click that, it'll take you right to it.
Yep.
But I just want to say thanks, man. It was a pleasure. I was really excited to have this conversation, and I welcome you back anytime, man. You're part of the family now, brother. Yeah. So I want you to know that.
Your story, your story holds a big place in my heart, bro. It really does, And so
thank you.
I know when shit gets going down and I get these bad moments, man, I'm gonna think about Eric and what was he doing, And again, the biggest thing I can leave you with is a Buffalo mindset. Face any storm that's coming your way. Go right through that shit, because after every dark night, there's a bright morning.
I think that's my spirit animal now, brother. The buffalo, definitely.
Buffalo, I got a buffalo up here on my wall. I got a buffalo. It was brought back from Rwanda. One of my athletes went to Rwanda, and he brought me back a wooden buffalo. Right, and so that's my symbol. That's the symbol right now, the buffalo.
Hell yeah, brother! I love that, man. So I'm definitely gonna take that from you too, man, because I think that's a great analogy, brother. Yep. So I appreciate that.
The humans are gonna run, but we're the only animal. The buffalo, the only animal that go right to it. So
right to the storm. So
right into the storm.
Sorry. Well, I just want to say thank you again, man. I really appreciate you and your team, and thank your wife and everybody else that's behind you and the whole Move team there, man. I just want to say thank you for what you guys are doing. Really appreciate that.
No, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, and I hope all your audiences likes it, man. You can continue to help more people become great.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Well, everybody, thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Easy. Bye.